There it goes. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday or afternoon. It's Friday afternoon. That's even better. So thanks to all of you for being here. My name is Rochelle Ossery. I'm a director with Gainwell, and we are on session number 7, lucky 7, for our claims encounters and financial systems demonstration. I think, as you know, if you just go to the next slide, Maria, there's been some conversations about completing an upgrade to the existing Health Pass system. And so in each of these sessions, we've been talking to different groups about what that would look like. Particularly today, we're going to cover PRIMS and drug rebate. We have about 2 hours to be together today. And so the other sessions have been really interactive, and we would like for this one to be the same. You can ask questions directly, just, chime in and interrupt or interject. And then you can also raise your hand on chat or raise your hand on Teams or put a question in the chat, and we'll give you a thumbs up to let you know it's been received. And then we will ask that question. There's also a survey that OMS management would like for you to complete. The link is there in the middle of this slide. If you can't access it or if you had trouble, just reach out to Rick Hayward or Roger. So I'm going to turn it over to, you can see on the next slide, sort of the team that's going to be presenting today, but Amanda Kerr is our main presenter. So I'm going to turn it over to Amanda. Thank
All
you.
right. Well, hey guys, good afternoon. I am so excited to be here today. Y'all know me, I love to talk about drug rebate. So for those of you who are not familiar with me, I think I know just about everybody on the call, but maybe a few folks aren't. So I've been doing drug rebate for a little over 20 years now. I've worked supporting a number of different states, both operationally and as part of the product team, where I get to help design new functionality and enhancements. I got my start as a rebate analyst, and so I like to think of like always trying to help make that user experience for the folks actually using the applications. What can we do to make that better? And so, in conjunction with my team, I feel like we've made some great enhancements over time that I'm happy to show you guys today. I think you guys are gonna, get excited about it and what you might get with this upgrade project. So like Rochelle said, I would love for it to be interactive. I know I work with Jan's team on a very frequent basis, so hopefully we can just have that comfortable level of jump in, ask me a question. If I'm moving too fast because I get excited, feel free to jump in and say, "Hey, Amanda, slow down," or just "Hey, I would like to spend more time on this," or "Show me this," or whatnot. So again, just please let it be real interactive and make sure that we get all your questions answered. I've asked some of my team to join as well today in case you have some like deeper dive operational questions. So I've got Mike and Jenny and Jen on as well. So if you ask me some questions that stump me, they'll jump in to save me. So yeah, so I think you can move on to the next slide, please, ma'am. And so I think we've talked a little bit about this. So what do you get with the upgrade for PRIMS specifically, right? So you'll get the upgraded version of the PRIMS user application, which is where we're going to start at today. The look and feel as far as PRIMS goes is going to be very similar, right? You'll see a little bit different and maybe the look and the color, but for the most part, it's the same great application that you have today. What I'm going to focus on there, since you already know how to use the application, is I'll try to focus on the new functionality, new fields, new screens that you'll be getting and get to use. The biggest thing that I think you're going to get out of today is that PRIMS Connect manufacturer web portal. And I think this is going to be like the biggest thing that impacts and saves you time, right? That ability for the manufacturers to go in and actually get their own information, their own CLDs, their own invoices, in conjunction with invoice emails and kind of going to a fully electronic invoicing process. We're also going to spend a little bit of time in Process Manager. I know you guys use it today for like the storing your payment docs, but we've expanded on that and we have a whole like workflow solution for that invoice work object and that process and helping you manage it all the way through dispute resolution. So we'll spend some time there. And then we'll talk through the upgraded version of the reports, right? So that won't be too terribly different from what you have today, but we'll spend a little time on that and show you some of those changes as well. So I think the next slide, if you could, is just a little bit, I think I probably went a little too in depth on that slide right there, but basically, for those who aren't as familiar with PRIMS, it's going to be your system of record for all of your drug rebate data. It's going to integrate with that manufacturer web portal and the workflow tool that I just talked about. Again, we're very operations focused on the user interface. We want it to be helping you do your job better. And then along with that, we would provide updated operational DLPs, procedures that go along with the upgraded tools. So I think I covered everything pretty much on the right side of that. Maria, if you'll go to the next slide.
Hey,
I think
Amanda.
that, hey.
It just so in the past sessions, people got a little bit or had some questions around administrator, and was that the same as QNext? So I didn't know if that was a question here, but those two, when we kind of interchange those two, correct?
Sure, but they're not really applicable for PRIMS, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
we would go and pull our claim data in the same way we do today, right? So as far as the back end of PRIMS, it doesn't really use QNext or administrator.
Gotcha. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
No, sure. So again, lastly, right before we jump into the fun stuff is we're going to talk about it being a paperless model of rebate administration. So instead of having to, print those big PDFs out and snail mailing those invoices out the door, we've replaced that with a fully electronic rebate invoicing process. We're going to talk about the automated workflows. I think you guys do some provider verification letters, or you have that functionality today, but that also carries over as well through the upgrade. We've added some fun payment process automation that I'll be excited to talk to y'all about. And then, of course, the web portal and the reporting that we talked through. So do you guys have any questions before I just jump into it?
I don't have any questions, Amanda.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Val. I love the feedback. So, all right, I am going to steal the share now and get right to it. Well, I don't want to start there. I'm going to start. Okay, so here is let me move this guy out of my way. This is the upgraded version of PRIM. So as you can see, very similar to what you have today. It's just a little bit different kind of color background. It's a little lighter and brighter. You'll notice some of the screens are a little more rounded. So again, but the functionality and the way it works is absolutely the same. I wanted to start with invoice program type maintenance. This is where we configure all of the programs. Y'all's invoice program type maintenance is a very slimmed down version. So you'll see that this is super expanded from what you have today, right? So it still just brings some of that configuration to the front, right? So where you can easily at a glance for all of your programs, see how they're configured for the system. We've expanded, as you can see here at the bottom, which is kind of my favorite part of the screen down here, is for each of the programs, your invoice settings, right? So to me, this, in my opinion, is the most valuable part of it for me, because it confirms what are we excluding for each program, especially for 340B, PHS here. Are we excluding it? How are we excluding it? Claim or provider level? If we made a switch from provider to claim, which of course you guys did, right, for medical, it would have that date captured so we would know when that occurred. So again, just good information at a high level for how all the programs are configured. Let's see, next tab is going to be reporting. So again, this is just confirming which of our programs are rolling up into that master CMS 64 page that gets turned over to finance. We can also configure your outlier report settings. We can change these up if you want to redefine what determines what an outlier is. Remittance, this is one of the fields that you can maintain in the front end of the app here. So even though we email out the invoices notifications themselves, we do also still produce a PDF copy of the invoice that is made available on the web portal, and it is going to have that remittance address on it as well. So this is where we would put in the specifics for where you want the manufacturers to send their payments back to. And then this is one of the main new things for you guys, right? So we do allow you to control what you make available to the manufacturers on that web portal, PRIMS Connect, right? So you can decide how far back do you want to allow them to pull their own CLD for, right? Do you want to let them go all the way back in time to 91? Do you want to limit it to the last 10 years? So it's very flexible, and you can decide how far back you want to allow them to pull their own CLDs without your involvement in. Same thing with invoices, right? This is also where we control as part of our invoicing process when we're going to send those emails out as part of that sync. So again, both Process Manager and PRIMS Connect have syncs with the PRIMS and the PRIMS database, right? So that's how they kind of integrate together and all work together, make sure we're syncing up all of our data to be consistent. But again, so this is just kind of how we control what they're able to see on that portal. So any questions about IPT or anything like that? Or what you see here?
Amanda, I do have a little question. If the manufacturers come in and do their CLD and they actually wanted like a 10 or a 15-year span, if we allowed that, does that cause any lag with them doing a query like that on the system?
So I was actually going to talk about that when I talk about the portal, but basically the way we work it is they'll put in their request at any point during the day, but all the requests process overnight so that there aren't any system, implications during the day. So that's that's how we handle that. So they can put in as many requests as they want for whatever timeframes they want, but we process them all overnight. So they'll put in the request, it'll process overnight, they can go back the next day and get them.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, one other thing that I forgot. So you guys know me, I am a creature of habit. So one of the I will say the biggest thing that I had to get adjusted to with using the upgraded version of PRIMS is I know that Val and you guys are so used to PRIMS, and like F9 is your like magic key for querying, right? Now it changes to F3. So I don't know about the other guys on my team, but that to me was like the only thing that took me the longest to get used to, right? So I still love that you can use the function keys to do all your querying and stuff, but that was one that I had to get used to. I'm like, wait, I can't tell you how many times I hit F9 instead of F3 in the upgraded environment. But anyway, fun fact there. All right. If there are no more questions about IPT, I'm going to jump on. I wanted to just briefly show, again, most of this stuff is all going to be very much the same that you already have. But one of the things that I wanted to show is the labeler inquiry, right? So you guys are used to this. You're going to have your analyst assignments are all done here, but you'll notice on the right here, we have added a labeler type. So I know you guys know, and you guys have state labelers, right, for your diabetic supply programs. And right now we have to go in and we basically update the CMS contact information for those, even though they don't come on the CMS file. So what we've done as part of the upgraded environment is we've actually added their separate state invoice contact information so that we can denote between a state-only labeler and a CMS labeler, right? So just a small change, but it helps with keeping things a little bit separate and understanding what's coming on that CMS file and what's a state-only program labeler code. So I just wanted to show that. I am going to go ahead and jump into invoice. This did not change for you guys, but I wanted to just kind of show you also some of the stuff so that you don't just hear me say, oh, you're saying nothing changed, but did it really not change? So I wanted to show a few things here. All of your same querying functionality, all your same parent-child screens, all of that good stuff, which I believe are really good things about PRIMS, has not changed. But I am going to go ahead and put in a query just so you can see the way it works is all very similar, right? You get all of the good data up here. One thing I will point out is you will see a lot more of these ID fields, right? This says invoice ID. When we get over to the payment screens, you're going to see some doc ID fields and things. Those are going to be connections with Process Manager and that workflow tool that we've talked about, right? So you're going to have the ability, you could go and query on an individual item like that in there, or what I'm going to show you in a little bit is keying in on that primary invoice and just seeing all of the supporting documents for it. But by using this, the doc IDs and things associated in PRIMS, you can go and query on those individually in the workflow tool just to pull up that particular document if you wanted to. All right, so I wanted to focus on this guy right here. Again, very similar, but I wanted to kind of go in and show you some stuff on the invoice item details. So again, very similar here. You're going to have all your same great invoice item activity. I actually found out that this isn't standard across like rebate applications, and it kind of blew my mind because I love the ability to look and see the activity that anything that has happened for that invoice item over time, any changes, whether we did a change manually like an RQ, whether it's an RV, whether it's an RA, all the different labeler payments. All of that good stuff stays the same. What I want to really get into is the item claims. So this is where I think it's going to be super helpful. So you'll see an expanded view of your claim level detail supporting that invoice here. And what I love are these new fields all the way over here to the right. So we've added what's called an invoiceable claim field, right? So you know how we do still pull in your 340B claims and things like that, but it's not easy at a glance right now for you guys in the application to really see which claims are invoiceable or not invoiceable. And then all of these, of course, are queryable as well, as all the fields are. So you can easily go ahead and put a query in and only look at the invoiceable claims, or if you wanted to check your uninvoiceable claims, you could do it either way with the Y or the N. Disputed claim is new functionality as well. You'll see here in the middle of the screen, this disputed claims here, you can flag a single claim or all claims as disputed. And what this will do is this actually flows through to our claim level detail reporting. So when I show you that in a minute, you'll see that that's actually a parameter that you can use to show disputed claims. It also, these fields pull up as on your CLD as well. So it's actually just a way to make sure that you and the manufacturer are in sync when you're doing dispute resolutions, right? So you're marking them in PRIMS that flow through to your claim level detail that you might be working with the manufacturer on. Again, just kind of another tool to make your experience a little bit easier. And then another great one is reverse, right? A lot of times when you're doing your work, you don't want to waste time on a claim that's already been reversed. So this is a way where you can, again, query down, and you can do multiple queries, right? So you can do, I only want to see invoiceable claims that are not reversed, and you can put that in as well. So again, just, hey.
I have a question from Valerie. So the 340B mod field still on the screen? Is it still on the screen?
Yes, so that's a value go into claim details, right? So, and I'm in a pharmacy program, but the same as what your medical field, your medical today, right? So you got the claim 340B flag functionality is the same that you guys have today. So again, if we were in a medical claim, it would be based on that logic, right? Those the UD and the JG or whatever it is, right? That would all be the same, and that claim 340B flag would pop. And then, of course, for pharmacy, if we ever wanted to implement that, it would be a lot of our states do submission clarification code of 20, and you'd see that flag pop to a Y. And I can show you one of those. I can. It's actually part of what I normally do is I'll pop in here and I'll do a invoiceable claim of no, and then I think you guys have the totals button today, right? That shows you all the different buckets for what might make an excluded claim. You can see in this particular one that we're on, they have PHS or 340B claims. And then we would drill down to that same claim level detail screen. And this time you'll see it's a Y because that submission clarification code is a 20. So whatever that logic is, it works exactly the same way. So you got it. All right. So we talked about disputed claims. Okay, verification letters. I think you guys have verification letters today, right? But I don't know how widely you guys use them. Do you guys use them today, Val and Jan?
We don't currently use them very much, the letters. Yeah.
Okay. So that's going to be the same way. They're going to be available to you. We can keep them if you want to keep them as a tool. If you're like, we don't find a lot of value here in Maine for them, we don't have to configure them. But it is part of the upgrade offering, right? So I think it's very similar to what you guys have today, provider. We've done those kind of 4 kind of main reasons for a dispute, and you can pick a single claim or all claims, and it'll go and it'll generate those letters to the provider. So I won't spend a lot of time on that because I think it's very similar to what you guys have today. Let's see, do you guys have any other questions about invoice or claims, what you see here, or how to use the new fields or anything like that?
I know it's exciting to see all this stuff.
Okay, good. Well, I was hoping.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
Okay, I was like, this is where I think Val's going to get super excited because I know that it is a pain to wade through the claims like you have to do today. So for me, I'm like, I know it seems like a small thing to those who maybe aren't doing the work, but the ability to
part is really good. I think
Yeah.
we might be able to start using that and have it more automated.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to click out of here and let me just check my notes. I did all of that. Clicked on that. We talked about that. Oh, I know what I wanted to do next. Okay, so I know that you guys, I think, put in a CR recently, and I asked them to let you guys know that I would talk about it during our demo about exclusion maintenance, right? So feel free to hop in here and let's have some good conversation about this, but I wanted to show you that this is going to be a part of the upgraded solution, right? So you can still do NDC by NDC, but we also did go ahead and add in category level exclusions as part of the upgrade, right? So in here, what you would do is we've configured the category levels to be NDC 9, therapeutic class, GCN, and HICL. Now, I know you guys use GPI in Maine, so that's something that we could work through as part of the upgrade, right, as adding potentially GPI as one of these categories, right, based on the way your formulary file works. But you can get the idea by what I'm going to show you today. So again, you can add a new category leveled exclusion. You would put in the value and the effective date and save it. I can show you in here what we've already have kind of a few different ones configured here. And then I'm going to pop over and actually show you how it looks when we do it. So what this one is saying is that we configured a category exclusion based on GCN with a value of 97003. So at the time that that is created, it's going to pull in all the NDCs that have that value, that have a GCN of 97003. It's going to populate them all at that time with the criteria that we put in. The beauty of it, and this is I think what you guys were getting at too, is that I'm going to forgive my scrolling for a minute. But then every new formulary load that comes in, it's checking and saying, hey, are there any new NDCs that aren't already in here that meet this GCN criteria of 97003? And if there are, they get pulled in and they get added, and they have a comment that says, hey, this was added via the formulary load, right? So this is super great functionality too, because, right, I think this is exactly where you guys were coming from. It's kind of a pain to try to keep up with something on an NDC basis, right? So this allows you to then do it at that higher level group. If that whole group is, already supposed to be excluded, then let's just go ahead and take care of it at the higher level. So any questions about this? And do you guys think this is, or am I on the same page about this? Was kind of what y'all were getting at with that request as well?
Yeah, I think so. I
Yes.
think we were looking at the vaccines, right, Jan?
Yes, yes,
time.
yeah, that we're not
Yep.
supposed to rebate on, so.
Yeah, exactly. So when you have that kind of higher level class, right, you would pick the right category, put it in there, and then you don't ever have to worry about it again. So
Mhm.
That's great.
yeah.
And we
So
wouldn't have
cool.
to revisit it, right? I mean,
Exactly.
every time. Yeah.
Nope. It would every time a new NDC got added to that higher level category that you put in, it's gonna add it just like this each time. Every time we do a formulary load, the logic goes and pulls it and checks, and it'll put it in automatically. So you don't ever have to touch it again. You could only come in here and check it, when you wanted to and
Yeah.
make sure. But yeah, it'll do it automatically, and you won't have to go in and manually do anything.
Well,
So.
that's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a question about that, Amanda.
Sure.
So if we did it at a high level like that, and let's say we had, a group that basically wanted to exclude everything but 2 items, could you use that functionality in the reverse? So could you actually, exclude everything from rebate, but then still allow 2 items to go through?
No, not at that category level, right? Because that's the beauty of it. You're saying everything in this category should be excluded. So I don't know how we would do everything in this category except these 2 NDCs that still have that value, right?
Okay, all right.
I think then it would have to be
It
in
was
the,
just,
yeah,
yeah, it was just a
yeah.
thought. So
Yeah, I
all right,
think that
thank
would
you.
make it have to be in DC level at that point, right? Or at a lower level, right? So the way, and again, I only know enough about like pharmacy stuff to be a little bit dangerous, but I think all of these are a little bit hierarchical, right? Like I think that therapeutic class is a broader level than GCM, which is perhaps a broader level than HICL. So it could be that you could try to get to the highest of the low categories, if that makes sense, right? So perhaps you don't have to go to the NDC level. Perhaps you could do NDC 9, right? Or, so you could, that's also the good part about this is that if you can't exclude it at the full like therapeutic class level, maybe you could go down to a GCN and then some NDCs from another category. Does that make sense? So there might be a way to make it less painful if you just had a few that you wanted to exclude out of one particular category. Does that make sense?
It does, thanks.
Okay, sure. All right. So
I do have just a technical question. So today PRIMS use what, from the formulary file load, because different vendors have different classifications. How would we get to, for that CR, how would we get to the RGPI on the pharmacy side to match so that we have the right grouping?
We would configure it, Jan. That's what I was saying.
Okay.
This is just in this particular demo environment that I'm in. We did it. I think this is perhaps what's the other FDB type of drug configuration.
Okay.
So again, since you guys use Metaspan, if we did the upgrade project, we would work together and we would make sure that we're configuring it accordingly, right? So to me, that's configuration. So we would make sure that, again, for the formulary file that we use for you guys, that it would make sense, right? So, but just for demonstration purposes, whatever your category levels are using that Metaspan file on your formulary, we could create them similar to this. Does that help?
Great. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Oh, sure. All right. So hopefully that was fun. Another fun thing I wanted to show was under inquiry claims. My finger is jumping. Pre-invoicing claim adjustment inquiry. Okay, so I know you guys are familiar with doing RQs, right? So that's after an invoice is created and you find some claim adjustments that need to be done and the provider can't do it through a reversal and rebuild or whatever, right? You have the ability to go in and add in those claim level adjustments and create an RQ. But that's all based on the invoice already being created. We've added this functionality for pre-invoicing claim adjustment inquiry. So even before we create the invoices, so let's say you found out about some outlier claims and there's not enough time for the provider to reverse and rebill, or they're just unable to. Let's say we're working through the invoicing checklist and we see some type of a crazy claim that's going to throw your invoice off astronomically. We can go ahead and we can put in this claim level adjustment as a pre-invoicing claim level adjustment. And once we enter it into here, it acts just like RQ functionality, right? And then this happens before we create the BLs or before we create the invoices. And then when we run that process to actually create the invoice, it pulls this table, pulls it in. And so these negative 50 units would be taken off of the invoice itself, the BL units. This record gets transferred over to the adjustment maintenance table for where you do your RQs, right? So that once that invoice is created, you can match up, hey, this is why this quantity is different, right? So to me, that's like super cool functionality that it not only can I put it in here for making my invoice go out the door correctly in those situations, it then transfers it automatically over to adjustment maintenance, and I'll travel there just so everybody has a little bit of a frame of mind of what we're talking about. It goes ahead and pops it over there too, so that you are looking at the same exact thing. Let me go find my NDC I was working at earlier. Oh, I had a little bit of a glitch there. Where did you pop to? There we go, 29. And then okay. So what I'm talking about is when you're in your quantity adjustment RQ. So basically we'll move it from your pre-invoicing claim adjustment here. Once that BL gets created that includes those adjusted units, it pops it over to invoice item adjustment here. So everything is still associated with the invoice item and you can see it at any time. Does that make sense? Everybody, any questions about this?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's a lot more to look at, but I think it's going to be very helpful.
Yeah, and again, I don't know that you're going to use it as much as you use RQ, but it's nice to have there, right? So that if you have those instances where, hey, I want the BL to go out correctly. I don't want to have to create the BL and then immediately create an RQ, right? It just makes it a little bit cleaner, right? So. All right, now I'm not going to spend a ton of time because you guys already know how to enter payments and none of that is not changing, right? But I do want to pull up and go through the payments just a little bit. So I'm going to pull up an example just so I can show you some stuff. Sorry, y'all know I have trouble like looking at something and talking at the same time. Here we go. So everything here, you'll see it all acts very similarly, but here is an example of these document IDs that I keep talking about. So you could always grab this doc ID from here, copy it into your process manager and pull that doc ID up, right? So you can see exactly that. So again, it's just a way they integrate together. What I want to get down to is all of this works the same, right? You're going to disperse your checks, then you're going to do checks to payment voucher levels. None of that changes. When you get to a payment voucher, I know you guys are used to doing auto posting and then jumping into your payment voucher posting. What's exciting and new is that we have we actually can use the import Rosie and Piqua feature now. So since CMS published those, basically that guidance about how manufacturers could create text file versions of their Rosies and Piquas. We created, if they can submit that to you in that text file format, then we can load them in automatically, right? We would create like a shared file folder location where you could put in that electronic Rosie or Piqua from the manufacturer and run a process. Hit the import Rosie Piqua button, and then it would automatically populate all of your payment postings, right? Exactly as given to you by the manufacturer. So then you're just kind of doing almost the same as an auto posting, except you know that this was imported from them directly. And then you're just kind of validating that everything matches and lines up before you hit reconciled. You'll also see that we've got these additional electronic total remittance and interest amounts that kind of come from those payment docs. Again, if we were to have used that function, would be populated, so you'd have that there too. So again, just kind of another neat little improvement that we've made. Again, with CMS's support of that electronic file version helps us out, because before that you kind of were at the whim of every manufacturer might want to do it a little differently. So once CMS put some guidance out there and created a standard format, then we were able to go ahead and utilize that in a way that's, I think, going to be super cool if we can get some manufacturers using it, right? So
it's going to save time, especially for the large manufacturers that send in, 150 pages.
Exactly. If we can get them on board,
Wow.
right, with creating a text file version of that, and you just import it, make sure everything, that all the numbers match, and you just hit the reconcile button, right? I mean, it's going to be a huge time saver.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So do you guys have anything that you want to see in PRIMS? Anything you want me to kind of show you that's not going to change? I feel like I've hit some of the highlights of what I consider to be the biggest, kind of new things that you're going to get in the application itself. But I want to make sure before I kind of move on to the web portal and the emails and all of that stuff, was there anything else while we're in the app that you guys have a question about or anything?
You did a great job showing us what we use so far.
Okay, good deal.
I can't think of anything else.
Okay, cool. Then I'm going to jump to what I consider to be some more fun stuff. Yay. I'm going to go to the web portal next, but before I get there, I wanted to show you the invoice email. So I know I keep talking about it, but I love this, because I remember having to print out all the paper and snail mail them out, and then you have to worry about return mail and all of this kind of stuff, right? And so I love our invoice email process. It sends them to your invoice contact and the technical contact for the labeler code. So whoever those are listed at on the CMS quarterly labeler file, they will both get a copy of the email. It's going to be kind of really simple in the fact that it's just going to say, this would say main here, main Medicaid drug rebate invoice for this labeler code, this year quarter, this program. And then this is basically your cover page, right? So we would tweak this for you, but in general, it's basically that same language that's just like, hey, this is the information for Maine for this quarter. Then it does tell them they can visit the web portal to download the PDF or text file versions of the invoice. It also gives them some instruction about, hey, if you haven't registered yet, have the technical contact go and register, right? So this is where I wanted to talk about how we do security for the web portal. We leverage the CMS quarterly file for the security of the web portal. And I can't take credit for this, but I think it's pretty genius. And I don't know if it was Katie Landry or, someone, back then, because when I came to Molina at the time, I came in right when this was being implemented. And I've come to find out that this is a really genius way to do this, right? So we don't have to worry about having any separate agreements with manufacturers or keeping track of their users or having any type of manual intervention for who gets access. We're basically saying, hey, CMS is already telling us on the quarterly labeler file who is authorized to have access to each labeler code's data. So we make that technical contact from that file be the key user and take responsibility for who can access that data. So once that technical contact registers, they can then go and invite whomever they want to. So they can invite any other users in their company to access their data. If they've outsourced to a third party to do their disputes and payments, they can allow them to have access. And when I jump to the portal in just a minute, I'll show you how they can actually control that at a labeler code level. But it's just been really, I think, just a really great thing here. And again, I think I mentioned this to you guys before, the beauty of you guys coming in when you are is that they're already used to this, right? They're used to getting these emails. They're used to using the portal. They know how to navigate it. We've worked through all of the training of them, so to speak. And we have 100% compliance in our other states that use the portal and get the emails, right? So you guys would get the benefit of that, which I think is really great. So again, very similar language to your current cover letter, with the addition of course, visit the web portal to download what you need. Scrolling on down, we do actually include enough information in the body of the email that they could make a payment just using the email if they wanted to. We don't include rate information in the email, right? But we didn't want to have, like, if we were to try to send these emails, secure or something like that, because it had that confidential data in it. We were worried about bounce backs or different things, right, with different systems not being able to access it. So, but they do get the NDC, the units, whether it's an original invoice or a prior period adjustment. The invoice number itself will tell them the program, the labeler code, the year, and the quarter. So again, they have enough information, but I do believe that a lot of them, they receive this and then they automatically go to the portal and download their PDF or text file versions, right? So that is the one time of the quarter that we do go ahead and we stage their PDF invoices for them. So they don't have to go in and request it at the time that the invoices get sent out. So on the send date of the invoice, when they get their email, they can automatically go to the portal and download those PDF copies immediately. Any other time, though, any other request that they make, they have to go in and actually submit a request. And so I'm going to show you all of that good stuff now. But I guess I should have asked, do you guys have any questions about the invoice emails before I jump into the portal? Sorry about
Amanda,
that.
I have one question. That's okay. Currently, we go in after sending the emails by, we go in and make a note under the call log. Is that something? Does
No.
the call note, do we still enter that in, or?
It is going to do it for you. It is.
Oh,
I forgot. That's a great question. And I actually forget to call that out. But yes, it goes in, and Jim Boyd will keep me honest here, but I'm fairly certain, like, it logs the emails that were sent out. It logs when they go into the portal and they make a request for something. It logs it. It's got all that integration into your contact log. So at any time, Val, you can go in and say, what has this labeler code gotten already? And you can go see that activity, right? So you aren't blind to it. You can go in and see, hey, look, you already requested CLD on this day, blah, 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 right? So, yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yep. I think it does the same thing for late letters, right, Jim Boy? Keep me honest. I'm pretty sure it also logs a contact whenever the late letters get sent out too. So, yeah. So all that stuff that you normally have had to do manually, we've got processes that sync that up. So
great.
Nobody is calling me out on anything wrong there. So I am thinking that I got all that right. Okay. While I'm here on the invoice, though, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go and show you the late letter because I have it pulled up too. So late letter is just very similar. It's going to go to that same invoice and technical contact. It's very brief. It's got your little verbiage here that they haven't made their payment. And then it really just says labeler code, labeler name, year, quarter, amount, and program. So it's really just that kind of nudge like, hey, quick little late letter email. You haven't sent your payment in yet. And as we get into our workflow tool, I'm going to talk more about our whole failure to respond process. So, okay, back here. So This is the main page of PRIMS Connect. So if you guys, if we do the upgrade, you would get a main PRIMS Connect. They all act the same. So they are very used to how they have to navigate it. I'll quickly show register now. So if it's the first time, if they have a new technical contact or something, they do have to come in and register. It's very easy, as you can see. The kicker is that their name and email has to match exactly as it is listed on that CMS quarterly file for the quarterly labeler file, right? Because that's our security key, right? So we want to make sure they are who they are. And then they're allowed to register. So let me, I knew it was going to do that. It's going to make me enter my stuff again. So bear with me.
And Amanda, can you hear me? This is Jenny.
Yeah. Hey, Jenny.
Hey, and one thing, whenever they request something to download, you can see what they've requested and what they've actually downloaded. It goes from pending to complete.
Awesome. Thank you for that clarification, Jenny. Okay.
Hey, and Amanda, I have one question. Do you guys do thresholds for late letters, or?
I'm going to need a little help on that one. I know we've made it into an automated process.
Yeah.
So I want to say that it's anything that's still outstanding as of the configured date, right? So whether we choose it to be 60 days after the sent date or not, I think I know it's an automated process that generates them. Mike or Jen, do you know if we do any thresholds on that, or I think it's all? I want to say it's all, but no thresholds. Okay, thanks, Jen. Okay. Yep. No, Jen, we just send them all. And I think part of that is because we're sending them via emails too. So there's no cost to consider. So might as well ping them and see what you can get your payment, right?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay. So when the user first logs in, they are going to land here on their Manage Information Request page. So normally, unless the invoice just got sent out, or if I was the first time logging in, this would be blank, right? So there would be no request if they hadn't made any yet. But at the invoice time of the quarter, this is where their invoice would be staged here, and they could automatically download it. Any other time, they're going to have to make a request, which would just be done by hitting this button right here, this submit request. They would choose their program that they want to do it for. Then they would pick whether they want claim detail, where they can enter in one or multiple NDCs. They could do it for a time frame, multiple quarters. They could get the text file for the most recent quarter, or they can request copies of their PDF invoice for a prior quarter, right? Or they can do statements of account. So this is where they would make their request for what they want. They would submit it. And then it would stay in a pending status here. So it would acknowledge that they've entered it, but it won't process like we talked about earlier until overnight. So that way you've got multiple labelers, and especially at those busy times of the quarter when everybody's requesting CLD, we don't want to slow the system down. We don't want to have those competing resources. So everything processes overnight and it becomes available for them the following day. We don't have any problems with them. They all kind of know the process by now. So again, a benefit is that they're kind of used to how things work. So yeah, then this is pretty easy. It tells them ready for download. It does give them alternative feedback, right? So if they kind of key punched in something wrong or whatever, and they come back the next day, it's going to tell them, hey, there was no data found for this. So which means you got to kind of go check and make sure that you requested the right thing, right? We do have a manage uploads functionality, which basically just gives them a secure way to send documents back to us. But I'm going to be honest, I don't think this is widely used because I think most labelers are just going to send you a secure email with whatever they want you to have, as opposed to having to log into a portal to do it. But we do have the functionality, and I actually think it's pretty cool if they were to use this and to try to send you their documents, whether it's their Rosie Pequas or whatever it might be. It will, once they upload the file here, it will generate a message to the analyst letting you know, hey, you got a document you need to go look at, right? And everything is stored in Process Manager. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so now let's talk about every user is going to see these first two tabs, to request information and to manage uploads. Only your technical contacts then also have these last two tabs, right? Because they're the ones that control it and they get to invite the users. So when they first log in and they're like, okay, hey, I'm not going to do all this work myself. I need other people to come in and be able to have access to the data. They would just enter the email address of whoever they wanted to have access. for whatever labeler codes that technical contact is the contact for, right? So I think you guys probably know some of them may only have one, but some of them may have 5, 10, 20, right? If they're a bigger org, they can come in and for each user, they can say, okay, hey, this person only does labeler 2, so I'm only going to give them this. Or this person, I don't really want them to have everything, but they can go in and they can request claims, you know, so you can kind of, they can tweak their access based on what they want that particular user to do. And it will send an invitation and an email. The user will get an email to then be able to come and register and get access to whatever the technical contact has put in here for them. In that vein, the technical contact, once they've invited some folks, they can then administer those accounts. So let's say for one of their invited users leaves the company, they can come in and they can just remove all the access and save it, and immediately removes it. They can one of the things that I love, so we've talked about the fact that that quarterly labeler file is that key security piece, right? So because of that, if there's a change in technical contacts from one file to the next, right? So we load in the new file and it's a different technical contact for these labelers. It automatically disables the account for the technical contact and all of its invited users. So whoever the new technical contact is will have to come in and register. And then they could go and search for those users who already have accounts but have been disabled, and then they can reinstate their access. But they will have to take that action, right? So that's one way that we manage that security from that perspective. You can also see here they can register a new labeler code. So say we had a couple of companies that merged and I used to only have these 5 and now I've got 2 more. I can just add those labeler codes to my list here in PRIMS Connect as well. So again, pretty cool functionality there. Do you guys have any questions about how the portal works? Anything at all about the security of it or how we manage the users or anything like that?
No, I think it's going to be very helpful.
I think, I mean, I think it's a big time saver, Val, right? Like I remember when back in the day when you're like, you have to get the email from the manufacturer, then you've got to go pull whatever they want, right? And so then you got to send it back to them, answer any questions. It really takes a lot of that back and forth away, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's a lot. Yeah.
yeah. So to me, this is one of the biggest benefits to you guys of the upgrade, honestly. This and the emails, right? Because it's just, it makes it so easy. Because I think you guys are sending some of that stuff out manually today, right? With the
Yeah.
PDF invoices and the text files, right? So it would take all of that away, you know.
Now the CLDs or the outstanding balance, when we pull those currently, we have to kind of manipulate the file a little bit, rename things and that sort of thing. That we wouldn't have to do any of that.
No, it's all, these are our baseline versions of everything. And
Okay.
again, they're used to seeing those. Now, as if we do go, you know, if we do go down this path, we can look at all of that, but we've got our standard versions and, you know, there's no manipulation necessary. They literally go request it and it looks just like this. And they go and they download their CLD copy, right?
Great.
So, all right. So now I wanted to switch over to, let's switch to, where's my, I think it might have logged me out. Why did it do that? It did. Okay, bear with me. Let me go get back into, to get to Process Manager. I must have been idle too long. But this is good. So you guys know that you guys use Citrix today, right, to get into everything. So you would do that same, Citrix is your storefront. I'm going to open up Port Manager and my Process Manager. So just bear with me real quick while I get this going. I'm sorry, it logged me out. It's a break in my stride. You guys have any questions on anything else while we're waiting for these to load?
I don't have any questions. It seems like you've probably you know, worked through this quite a bit to ensure that the, you know, the technical contact is in charge, and if they're not, I mean, it seems really secure without having to do any other back and forth with the manufacturer. So
yeah, that's the goal, right? Is you kind of want to be as hands off as possible, because otherwise it takes away some of that, some of the benefit of not having to touch everything. Right. All right, now we're rocking and rolling. Okay. So I will be honest that I don't know a lot about what you guys see when you log into Process Manager today. So I'm just going to kind of talk through what I think is really cool, and you guys tell me if there's anything else you want to see. But one of the things I wanted to show is you can kind of configure, and Jenny will keep me honest as I go through here, but you can kind of configure your opening screen to be any of these tiles. I like it to do browse queues, right? Because I find that's where I'm going to go. I am more likely to want to navigate somewhere as opposed to going to search for an individual document. So I venture to say, as an analyst or a user, you would want to kind of do the same thing, right? So you'll notice over here that each analyst has their own set of work queues. And so the basis of how we've set up this workflow is all keyed around the invoice, right? So what we call the invoice work object is the primary work object. And I'm going to go ahead and open one of these guys up just because I feel like it'll be easier to see what I am talking about as we talk through it. Okay, so down here, this is my favorite part of it to show y'all, but anyway, you'll see this is in bold. So that invoice work object is the main work object. It's going to be the PDF version of the invoice. Everything else is going to attach to it though, so that it's your one-stop shop for all of these documents that you may currently have to go to different files or different folders or different wherever to kind of go put your hands on something. It all links together using the invoice as the primary work object that kind of is the glue that holds everything together. So where the quote workflow part of it comes into play is, and this is where I'm going to try to switch back to this screen, where the workflow part of it comes in is that invoice work object is the primary work object, and it's going to follow the life of the invoice, right? So as soon as you send the invoice out the door, it doesn't land in a queue that is visible to you, right? Because you just sent it out. So there's no action that's necessary on your part yet. What's going to happen is it's going to hang out kind of behind the scenes until some activity takes place, right? That activity may be that a late letter needs to get generated for it, right? And so then it's going to go into, it's going to create that late letter that's going to append to it, and then it's going to kind of hang out again. If a payment comes in though, and that payment is paying for it in full, it's going to land in this invoice closure queue, because that's basically kind of saying, hey, as far as the system can tell, this guy's good to go. You're ready to close this out. It's been paid in full. You want to take a quick look on it, make sure there's nothing that you see that's weird, and you can go about your merry way. If a payment comes in and it has a dispute on it, so it's not paying it in full, it's going to go to the invoice dispute queue. This is what I would consider, and my guys can correct me if I'm wrong, kind of your main work queue as an analyst, right? This is where all of your invoices are going to be that have to have something done to them. And that's where you would go in and you would take a look at it. You'd have all your supporting documents that we just saw. You're kind of start that dispute resolution process. What do I need to do to resolve this and get it to that paid in full status, right? Letter review would come into play if you chose to do letters, right? This is where those letter responses would come, and you would need to take a look at them, see if you need to update anything, how it's going to help you with your dispute resolution, that kind of stuff. I skipped over legacy, but legacy invoice is basically for like the old stuff, right? So we would kind of define what makes something a legacy versus something you would want in your invoice dispute queue. But sometimes, since those can be a little more involved, they might take a little more effort. You want to keep them separate from what you consider to be your current working items. And then these last ones are really cool. So we started and kind of put a name on the late letter process of a failure to respond process, and it all gets kicked off with that late letter email. So that late letter email gets generated and sent out the door, and then if they still haven't paid 30 days, these are configurable, but our recommendation would be 30 days after that late letter email was sent, that invoice is going to land here in this unpaid invoice contact 1 queue. And what this is going to do is it's going to help you track, okay, well, now I need to do something about it. They still haven't paid. The automated email wasn't enough to make them pay, so I need to make a contact with them. So now maybe you go and you send an email personally from you to that labeler code saying, hey, not sure if you saw, but you got this late letter email, you still haven't paid, pay us. If they still don't pay 30 days after that contact, it's going to land in your contact 2 queue. And this is where, hey, if you send an email the first time, maybe now you make a phone call, right? And you're like, hey, pay us. If they still haven't paid 30 days after this second contact, it's going to escalate to the supervisor or the manager queue down here, right? And that's where you would you would talk about it, right? Are they at least responding to you? Are they saying, hey, look, we're so sorry, we're undergoing a system upgrade and we're unable to make payment or whatnot? And you're like, okay, that's a valid reason, we'll bear with you. We'll just return it to the analyst for now. It'll go back into this invoice returned back queue for another 30 days. We give them, that much longer. At the end of this would be where you would decide operationally, what do you want to happen? Do you want to report them to CMS? Do you want to give them some more time? That kind of stuff. But again, it's a way to try to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks as far as non-payment of invoices. So any questions about that failure to respond process and kind of how those that flow might work for that?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm going to go back to the other screen. Okay, so this is what I wanted to really spend the time on because I think this is really cool. Again, you can see kind of the doc IDs, the invoice IDs that we saw in PRIMS, so you can kind of have an idea of how things link together. You can still search by label or code, year, quarter, program, right? So you can still do that. This is where kind of, PRIMS and Process Manager sync up, right, and keep everything in sync. So you have all of this stuff. You have work object comments that you can add to. So similar to your contact log in PRIMS, right? If you're working and you want to make notes on your invoice, you would add these here. We've got processes and procedures that our desk level procedures that work through how to utilize all of these fields for your workflow. So I'm not going to go too deep into that today. But what I did want to do is what I think is super cool is I love the fact that this is like an electronic file cabinet, right? So like instead of me having to go all those different places to find everything, I've got it all here. So I've got my PDF copy. It also appends the text file version of the invoice here. It puts a copy of the actual invoice email that went to the manufacturer. So you see what they got, right? So if they have a question or they call you about something, then you can pull up and see exactly what they got. You can see exactly what they're able to download from PRIMS Connect as well with that PDF and that text file version. So you've got everything that they are getting, right? Again, if it got a late payment letter, you're going to be able to see that email as well. If they've made payments, you're going to see that deposit information for that deposit sheet. You're going to see that payment for that. I love this so much. And I think, as you can also know, is you send out your invoice one quarter and then they have some utilization changes, right? So you have some reversal activity or you made some RQs or something. And so then they get sent out as a prior period adjustment on a future invoice, right? That also gets appended because that's activity that had to do with this invoice. So it's going to give you a copy of that, future quarter invoice, right? That has this one as a PPA on it. It's going to give you a copy of that in here too. And as you know, they can make multiple payments on an invoice. So again, it's going to capture each and every deposit and payment that they do for this that affects this invoice is going to be linked here. So I just love this. Do you guys have any questions about how everything links together or works or what you might be able to view here?
No, I'm excited to see it because going everywhere to pick up everything sometimes can be crazy.
It is, and time consuming, right? So it's kind of nice to have a one-stop shop for what you can
Yeah.
get, awesome.
The only thing that I see is that we don't do EFT. We don't collect money that way. So we would have to do it manually and then send it in to have it scanned in. Is that correct?
Yeah, so same thing. And I'm sorry that this is just one example, but same thing with your scan payment. So I assume that's kind of how it works for you guys today. And because I think you guys are using this to store your images already of your payments. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that part won't change, right? So those would be getting scanned in. It's just that we would have those indexes. We would maybe potentially more indexes on them that would tell it how to go and link to the right, invoice, right? So absolutely, it doesn't have to be EFT. It works. It actually was first designed to do exactly what you're talking about, right? So as those payments are scanned in, there would be some expanded indexes that would be added to it as part of the scanning process that will link it up to the right place. So. All right. Okay, I'm going to try to make sure that I get out of here correctly. Close it so I don't lock anything up. I think that's about all I was going to go through with the workflow tool. If you guys don't have any other questions. All right, I think I'm doing pretty good on time too. Look at me, an hour. Okay, so now I wanted to go to reports. So your reports are going to be very similar. This is sort of the updated version of SSRS, or your SQL Server reporting services, that you guys already use today. So one of the biggest differences is going to be that right now when you log into your reports, you've just got this big old long list, right, of tons and tons of reports. Well, we basically just kind of group them into some subfolders, right? I personally like the list view instead of the tile view, but you can change that accordingly. So we've basically grouped the reports. Most of these you already kind of have at your disposal. You are going to get some new reports, and then we've done some combined reports. So one of the ones that I wanted to show that I think is going to be super cool is claim level detail. So right now, if I'm not mistaken, you guys have, I think, like 7 or 8 different claim level detail reporting versions, right? And you've got to go in and pick which one you need for whatever you're trying to do. Is that right?
Yes, they're all
Okay.
different numbers. Yes.
They're all different numbers, all that. And so you're like, I don't know about you guys. I could see myself getting a little confused, like, which one do I use again? Oh, yeah, this is what I'm doing. So what we did is we combined it all into one report, but we expanded the parameters. So you're not losing any functionality that you have in your existing multiple reports. You just only have to go to the one report now, and you can choose for, hey, am I going to show recipient data? So this is basically in the past what we've referred to as like internal versus external, right? So I don't want to show recipient data to a manufacturer, so I'm going to leave that off. But also keep in mind that you're not going to have to be pulling this for the manufacturers as often, right? Because you have PRIMS Connect, and they're going to go get their CLD from the PRIMS Connect web portal. So you might want to see the recipient data. So you would put true. Hey, let me see it. I want this for my own benefit, and I kind of want to see that. This is where those disputed claims would come in, right? So if you've used that function in PRIMS in the application to mark your claims as disputed, you can, hey, I only want to pull in the claims that I've marked disputed, or no, I want to see them all. I think you guys have a mass recipient report nowadays. You still have that functionality. You can choose to do that or not, right? So again, kind of taking all of those different ones and putting them into one report with just further parameters. Now, I've actually already pulled one just to kind of give a view. So this is, I believe, a pharmacy claim level detail report, right? So you can see a lot of fields are very similar. What I wanted to, forgive my scrolling, I wanted to go all the way over to the right and see, kind of show you, like, it pulls in like that is reversed, right, that we talked about. So again, giving you that. It actually, another cool feature that we've added is it pulls in the adjusted claims unit. So if you've done an RQ, if you've added this claim to adjustment maintenance and you've removed off any units, it will pull these in here for you, which is super cool, right? And then it would then do the adjusted invoice units for you based off of that, what's in PRIMS. So I just think that's super cool. So again, just a quick little one here. Any questions about CLD or anything like that?
No. So if the claim is reversed and then rebuild, does it show, it'll show in that one-stop shop in the workflow, right?
Well, I think what would happen is your claim for the original that was reversed would be Y, and then it would have a new claim, and that may or may not be in the same quarter, right, depending on your payment date. So for the original claim, you would see that it would have a Y for reversal, and so that pair would be together, and then it would just depend on when the rebill took place, if it happened to be within the same quarter or if it pops into another quarter, right? So.
All right.
All right, so back to reports. Again, I just kind of wanted to briefly show you guys the different groupings. So you'll have we've made some calls here about what we consider to be management reports, what we consider to be operations reports, right? This is where all your 64 reports are. You'll get a couple of additional detail level reports than you do now with 64, but for the most part, all your 64 stuff is exactly the same. Your enhanced match, we would add in what we will do, and I've started to do it a little bit just because y'all know me, I'm like, want to get a little bit of a handle on what we might change. But what we do is we do a reconciliation between your current existing reports list and this baseline version reports list. And we would talk about it. We'd be like, okay, here's a few reports that you guys have today. Do you still use them? Do you want to keep them? And then we would, do those, as part of that implementation process, right? So we're not going to have you lose any functionality or lose anything that you do today. So if there happens to be a report that you have that we don't have another version of, and I say that specifically because I know you have a different, you have this enhanced match collected report, but you also have that other enhanced match report. So again, we would create a version of that as part of the implementation. So again, just the same tons of reports that you guys are used to. You're not going to lose any functionality. Got some administrative reports. There'll be a few new ones here that you guys would get that are kind of super cool. This gives you a view of the PRIMS Connect reports, right? So again, the manufacturers are going to pull from the portal, but if you are ever wanted to or needed to, you could come in and run that same report here as well. Yeah, so that's super fun. I did want to show, I'm going to try to get this pulled up on the other one. I can't say Mike Collins has created some really cool dashboard level kind of reports, right, that use these baseline reports. So one of the things that I think is really cool is being able to take data that's already being compiled and part of the system and kind of show it in pretty ways, right? So I know that you guys get asked to sometimes to say, hey, just high level information about what's going on in Rebate or what you're doing. So the benefit of getting on these baseline versions of the reports is that we've got some of these cool dashboards created that we could then create as well. For Maine. So these are one of my favorite ones. So this is basically using your cash rec report, right? And it's just rebate receipts over time. So this can, and you can change these parameters or querying or whatever. So obviously this is a super long period of time. But what I love about it is I think it's so cool to see like the growth of the program over time, right? And see how things may change, dips and ebbs and flows. And I just think it's super cool. I'm a little bit of a nerd like that though, but you can do it by calendar year, fiscal year. You're taking that data and kind of being able to display it in different ways by your different programs. And again, sometimes I find that when you're taking things to like a management level, sometimes then you get to, it's kind of nice to have it rolled up in some pretty charts, right? So I just always like to show these too.
So I don't have to do it manually, right?
Exactly, Jan, right? And that's super fun and cool. I love it so much. And so this is on like the receipt side. I'm pretty sure we've got one at I think this is my invoice side of the house, but Mike can come off mute and correct me if I do anything wrong with his stuff. But I just think it's so fun, right? To kind of see it in different ways, right? Your federal versus your supplemental. Just lots of good data. And I think we're so used to being like in the nitty gritty of it that sometimes it's really cool to take a little bit of a step back and look at it at a kind of a higher view too. So,
yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Jan, I'm thinking the KPI board.
Yeah, definitely. And, looking at how we're managing our benefit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So I always like to end on this because I just find it so fun and pretty. And Mike has done such a good job of creating all of these for us. So anyway, well, gang, that is all I had to kind of show and tell, but I'm happy to, if I didn't hit on something that you guys had a question about or anything like that, just let me know. Is there anything else that you guys might have a question about, anything you want to go back to? Did I move too fast on something or?
Did you show us the call log?
Oh, I can go back to, hang on, let me
I
go
can't
back.
remember.
No, that's okay. Let me get, it logged me out, but it should pull me right back in. Yeah, so it's just called contact here.
Okay.
And so then you'd have provider or labeler, but it works much the same way. Let me see. That should be okay, but it's going to be kind of the same.
Okay.
It looks all the same. Yeah, that's probably,
right.
I didn't think to show it. I don't know that we actually have anything in here, but again, it's super similar. Let me see. If I can show you anything. Yeah, so here, like these are probably a little bit different than what you have today, right? So it actually has, you can see it's going to create a contact for that invoice email. It's going to create one for the late letter. It's going to do for SOA, CLD, like, so it's got.
That's great.
All of this stuff. And so all the ones you're used to, then plus the new ones, right?
Ooh, the HRSA 340B too. We have that in there.
Yeah. So again, yeah, all of the contact functionality is going to be the same, with the bonus of it's going to automatically create the ones that are being automatically created, right? So that
Awesome.
way you can always go in and say, what did this labeler 3 get? Oh yeah, hey, look, they just pulled a CLD earlier this week, you know, so
Yeah.
you'll get to kind of keep them honest in that way too. So absolutely.
Very exciting.
Yay. I know it is,
Yes,
right?
it sure is.
Yeah, I'm glad. Well, good deal.
Well, we finished up early, so any more questions before we go?
No questions. Thank you very much for sharing all this. This is kind of exciting.
Thank you very much. So this session, after we end here, it takes a little while, but it'll be posted for anybody who missed, or if you want to re-listen to it. And then the slides will be posted as well. And just a reminder to take the survey if you could.
Yeah, I have something I'd like to add about the survey for Yvonne and for Valerie, because Jan and I don't really work out of the PRIMS system. So it'll be important when you take the survey to be very detailed about things that you see are positive and will help you. To add, make sure you add all that in when you do the survey.
Yeah, I have a Word document up. I'm typing as we're going.
Well, listen, everybody have a great weekend. Hopefully the rain will move out of there and you have some sun this weekend. So we appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Amanda.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
You too.
Bye.